Yeah, my name's Bob Gray. I'm here at Four Corners Farm in Newbury, Vermont. As I said, the name of the farm came from Heartland Four Corners, where we started farming. But we moved here 40-some years ago, and it's been wonderful. And I'm just glad to be here.
I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain, and I take you behind the scenes with growers who share their strategy for achieving the triple bottom line of sustainability. These interviews unravel how they're building their business to balance success across people, profits, and our planet. One ask I have for you is if you can leave a comment or write a review. There's a feature enabled right now called Fan Mail, so you can send a message via text to the podcast right from the link in the description. These come through as anonymous, so if you want to be known or would like me to reply, let me know who you are in the message. Give it a whirl. It's quick, easy, and free, and I'd love to hear from you. Today's episode comes to you from Newbury, Vermont, where we visit with Bob Gray of Four Corners Farm. He and his wife Kim purchased this farm back in the late 1970s after finding success selling their abundance of vegetables at a farmer's market. Over time, they built a highly diversified farm that supports both them and their children. Bob shares about the importance of cow manure, greenhouses, and having an attention to detail, while he reflects on his career as a farmer in Vermont.
Okay, well, my name is Bob Gray. I farm here at Newbury, Vermont now. Our farm is called Four Corners Farm, and I'll get into that story as we go along. Really, my farming started back in the, when was it? Let's see, I guess late 70s. I know if folks remember the Back to the Land movement when all the hippies came out of the city and lived in communes and started growing stuff to sell. And they started a local farmer's market in Brattleboro. And I had a fairly large garden, and my father had even a larger garden because he promised my mother, both of whom went through the Depression, that they got a piece of land, they'd never go hungry again. So I said, Dad, these hippies, they have this farmer's market down in Brattleboro. How about we take some of our leftover produce and I go down there and see what I can do? Well, I did and came back with $200, which about then was about a week's salary, or pretty close. And so I said, wow, I kind of like this. And the next week I went again, the same farmer's market, picked up $200, went to a flea market the following Sunday, picked up some more money, and picked up 2 restaurants. I haven't worked for anybody else since. And I love doing it, and it's developed and gotten bigger and bigger. So, yeah, that's my background.
That's pretty nice that you were able to just go to a market and kind of get your foot in the door. Sounds like pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. All these communes, they had started. Jake Guess, you said you'd spoken with him at one point. He got started sort of the same way. He was in a commune over there in New Hampshire. And we all started farming about the same time. And so I was just off the U.S. ski team for 14 years and pretty much just in survival mode. Doing the best I could, get through the summers. I had a wife and children working on construction. In the winter, I'd be off skiing. So I was pretty much dead broke when I got off the U.S. ski team. And all of a sudden, I had a job that meant not working for anybody else, but working for myself. And when you're working for yourself, you put a lot more effort into it. Yeah. So, yeah, I really enjoy farming and love doing it and growing food for people to eat. So as it developed, my wife and I were, not my wife, my girlfriend, Kim, were running a ski touring center in Randolph, something we stumbled into. And one winter, we put up a little tiny classified ad in a local weekly or periodical called Vermont Farm, I think it was called. And this gentleman came back from wintering in California. He had a place in Heartland, Four Corners, Vermont. Saw our classified ad in the back of this periodical. How he even saw it beyond me. I mean, just a whole pile of junk mail. And wrote us a letter, said, you can come farm on my property. And that's where Four Corners Farm got started. We went down, actually lived in the house with him the first year and the second year. And then he realized that Well, he'd be in there trying to cook us dinner at 6 o'clock at night. We were supposed to be there to sort of take care of him. That was the idea. And he'd let us build a shed in a sort of a summer residence on his property with one end had a upstairs bedroom and a downstairs had a dining room. And we started, and it was actually going quite well. We were going to the Norwich Farmers Market then, and managed to save a little money, and and then he passed away, and the family didn't know what they wanted to do at that point. We wanted to buy it, but in reality, it was a bedroom coming into Woodstock, and we never could have afforded to buy it. It was a beautiful spot. So we started looking around again, found an ad in a paper for 15 acres of land in Bradford, Vermont, just down the road from us. And we met the real estate agent here or there, and he said, well, I got something better than that. And we came up and looked at this place, and it was just perfect. An old farmhouse, barn, land for, at that time, which seemed like a lot of money, but now it seemed very reasonable. So we bought it, got a government low-interest loan, and and bought the farm. literally. And it's grown since then. And right now my 2 sons are here working with us with their wives. And it's become a pretty large establishment.
So how big was the farm when you bought it? Was it all open like this? Or?
Well, it was 115 acres. Or no, 125 acres, I guess. And we paid $115,000 for it, which I said seemed like a lot of money. The river bottom land you see toward the Connecticut River, that was all open, but up behind had grown up pasture. It was very stony and rocky. We managed to clear a lot of that. And we, at one point, decided my wife wanted to milk cows so we could have a Jersey herd, which is questionable as far as finances go. But cows keep the land open. Without cows, it grows up to brush and everything else. And even though it really costs us a lot of money to run this farm, I think it's a worthwhile venture. And we may be one of the only real original farmstead left in Vermont the way things are going. But people come to see what cows grazing the field, keep the land open, and providing us with manure, which makes an excellent source of fertilizer.
Yeah, and there's not too many that are truly diversified with animals and lives.
Yeah, we are terribly diversified, too much so. But I don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty special. And we do sell raw milk here at the farm, make our own cheese, and grow a wide variety of vegetables. Right now, we're just end of March. We already have tomatoes up in the greenhouse, almost in blossom. We're going to plant cucumbers in a few more days. And we have 10 or 12 greenhouses or tunnels, whatever. And we grow an awful lot of produce. So we can start opening to sell stuff by the middle of May. We'll have tomatoes by the middle of May with lettuce and spinach and beet greens and cucumbers, and then we're on a roll.
the whole gamut.
A whole gamut, yes.
So I take it when you bought the farm, it wasn't a large vegetable operation. So what led you in this direction?
Well, I was already doing it on my own as I selling at farmers market. I realized the potential and something I love to do. And my wife was interested, felt the same way I did. So with the two of us as a team, we just, vegetables. And we used to go to the farmers market, in Norwich, and we still do it now. But back then, we thought that was our main source of income. So pretty soon we were selling more right at the farm than we were at the farmers market. So we really began to focus on on-farm sales. Yeah, and it's worked very well for us. I mean, why not? I mean, we're in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. People want to buy local. Why do you need to get it from California, Florida, Mexico, or South America? We can grow it right here. And if people would change their thinking a little bit and start putting away more food, freezing it, canning it, and even putting in storage. I mean, it's not hard to put a root cellar in somewhere, dig a hole in the ground, and then you have carrots and beets and cabbage and potatoes all winter long.
It's amazing how just a little bit of a cool space, how long you can actually store produce. Yeah,
we can store potatoes right about next month. We have them down cellar in a house in a cold spot, but all of a sudden they'll start to sprout. So then, but we have walk-in coolers. So we just move them quickly out to the walk-in cooler, and they'll stay right through till summertime. So,
were you one to do a lot of things with hand tools, or were you pretty quickly to scale into tractors and
well,
equipment?
I started small, just a rototiller,
Yeah.
and walk behind rototiller, yeah, and that for a long time. A lot of trips up and down the field. And then my dad had an old Ford tractor. I borrowed and used that to harrow and do things. But as soon as we got enough income, well, that goes to a side story. There's a number of years that Kim and I, we weren't married then, we were running a ski touring center in Randolph and did the whole thing. Skiing, guests, meals, the whole deal, ski lessons. And all of a sudden I saw some money. And so that spring we went to an auction up in Champlain Islands, Rene Fournier's, and bought, I think 3 tractors and a pickup truck in one day. Auction, just running through and bidding, and we got rid of some of the tractors. But yeah, so all of a sudden we had a tractor, and then we bought a used rototiller, and away we went. Now we have, 30 tractors or 20 tractors, all of which need to be greased and maintained. So now we need a full-time mechanic.
Little tractors to big tractors, you got them all?
Got them all, yes. But they're necessary evil.
Yeah. What are you excited about in your next year of farming life?
Well, because we're now supporting 3 families, my 2 sons and their wives and children. We're supporting 3 families. It used to be just my wife and I. And we had no problem putting money aside. Now it all seems to find a place to go. So I think need to get more efficient and tighten up our expenditures. And that's a real challenge, to get everybody moving in the same direction, understanding what it takes to make a farm go. People think, oh, no, farming, that's a 24/7 job in summertime. Yeah, you work long hours, but in our business, basically, the farm shuts down in the winter. There are odds and ends. You've got to feed some dairy cattle. Well, dairy cattle, that's a whole other story, and some beef cattle, and plow some driveways, but basically have the winter off, at least in December, January, and most of February. How many other people have the winter off?
Right.
And I can ski and enjoy the winter, but be ready to work your tail off. You start in March and you're pretty busy, and then April you get very busy, and then May you are unbelievably busy. And we have a calendar we started years ago, a big wall calendar that has every day on, and you start writing down things to do that day. And it's really important. I'm trying to get my sons to really look at that, because if you make the same mistake twice in a row, you shouldn't be farming. You come in with red letters and say, don't do this again. And you don't do it again. Or you do this a little earlier. It's really helpful because there's so much going on. If you don't have a calendar to guide you, you kind of get lost in the mix. What am I going to do today? Well, look at the calendar. Do that first. Yeah, and it's been really important to us.
So are you building next year's calendar as you go along? Like, we should have done this a little sooner?
No, over the years we sort of developed it and just make modifications.
Yeah.
But I found to talk my sons into having their own calendar on their own. Yeah, you can look at your cell phone, but it's right there in front of the calendar. In one glance, you say, oh, I didn't do that yesterday, and I got to do that tomorrow. And you better get it done because it's all about timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about timing, exactly.
That's a creative way to stack the to-do list on the calendar. I kind of do that myself.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
But now it's pretty much habit. But even then, you can get lost. You get tied up in something. Oh, no. You've got to do this today. Come hell or high water, because it's so important. Farming is all about timing.
It's pretty easy to get backed up, too.
Yeah, really easy. Yeah.
So do you use pencil so you can keep kicking projects down the list?
No, we try not. No. Yeah.
Let's see. So going back again, when you bought this farm, was it in operation or was it?
No. A gentleman, he lived up in the village, I think. He bought it for he and his wife's sort of a retirement place, because that's what he did. He tended to buy up places. But no, the barn's beautiful. For us, because it's our storage. It's placed now. It's underneath this barn is where our farm stand is. But as a dairy farm, it was way, way too far gone. It was an 1800 dairy barn. So, yeah. But it's a beautiful barn. We did a lot of repair work on it. With the foundation and everything, because it was beginning to fall down in some places. God, I hate to think what happened if we lost the barn. We'd have no place to store stuff or anything else.
And you bought it in the 70s?
Oh, let's see. No, I was just thinking today, probably the very late 70s, almost 1980. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because we were running the ski touring center in 76, 77, 79. Then we moved here, I guess, 80, 81, something like that.
Okay.
I can't remember exact dates now. Years fly by.
So yeah, your primary infrastructure, your house, your barn was already 100 years old at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 200 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this house was built in 1800. So
Yeah.
now 225 years old. And it's still a great old house,
Yeah.
Not insulated very well. It takes a lot of wood to heat it, but no matter. Plenty of fresh air coming through the cracks.
Yeah. Good ventilation that way.
Yeah.
So you're highly diversified. What's your favorite crop?
Well, simply rhubarb.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because it's an old heirloom variety we picked up a few years ago. It's a wonderful variety. And yeah, every fall we get some good juicy cow manure and put on a thick layer. And in the spring it bursts up through and just takes off and grows 4 feet tall. Doesn't need weeding. Doesn't need spraying. Has no insect problems. And we pick it because it's such a wonderful variety without the way we treat it with manure that we pick it all summer long. Okay. Crop number 2, I'll have to say lettuce. Because income-wise, we transplant all our lettuce through black plastic now, or through white plastic, rather. And never have to weed it. Don't have to wash it because it didn't get any dirt sprayed on it. And our work doesn't go down. And, it let us almost $3 a head down. In less than an hour, they come back with hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of lettuce, all packed, ready to go in the farm stand. Yeah.
And it's a pretty short timeline too.
And we can replant 2 or 3 times through the same plastic. We used to grow it in the dirt, but no, through the plastic's the only way. And we have drip on it so we can control how it grows and everything. It's a wonderful crop.
If you're using the same plastic, how you hand transplanting or water wheeling that?
Hand transplant. We have migrant Mexicans who are just fantastic. They can plant stuff so fast. They can bend over and go down a row, never even straighten up. Yep. It's really fun. I mean, I've done the videos. How can anybody even lay out the plants that fast? Yeah, fantastic. And we have the same ones come year after year. We love them. They're like family. And for them, it's excellent because they're making more money than they ever dreamed of. We pay their way here, a place to live, all the food they want, my car to use for transportation. Yeah, so we love them, and we just couldn't farm without them, could not farm without them, could not replace that labor. Yeah. Nobody local can even keep up with them. I don't care how fit they are, how hard they think they work. They can't keep up. It's just a fact. They've been bending over since they were 10 years old, picking strawberries or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't bother them a bit.
How big of a crew do you have?
We have 10 people, plus 10 local people working in the stand and making deliveries and everything. Yeah. It's a big payroll.
Yeah, that's quite a few people.
It gets scary. And unfortunately, the government or whatever keeps increasing the wage for these people to think, well, maybe you'll hire local. Just nobody local wants to do it. So, yeah, our labor bills is getting tremendous. And so it's a balancing act now. We have to have them because they make the money. Every day they make money for us.
Right, yeah.
Nobody else is going to go out and pick all that lettuce and do it that fast.
Right. Yeah. You start thinking of the list and all the things you need to do, and then you can throw 10 to 20 people at it. Yeah, you can get a lot done in a day.
You better believe it. But as a grower, you have to focus on being a good grower, so you aren't spending that labor for them out weeding a crop that shouldn't have had been weeded. It should have been cultivated or planted in such a way on good, clean ground, so that you aren't spending that much money per hour just to weed a crop that probably won't give you money back. The time you spend $20 an hour weeding. Yeah. So that's very important. It's management. Huge management issue.
How many acres do you have in cultivation annually here?
Well, we've grown quite a bit. Unfortunately, excuse my voice, but down the flat here, when you bought this, we didn't know, but that used to flood annually. The last couple of years haven't been so bad because of climate change and lack of as much snow. But so we bought a piece of land just down the road 30 years ago, 8 acres or something. And then we also rent a lot of land now, up the road, here, there, everywhere. We probably have at least I probably farm at least 50 acres a year of good land, good river bottom land, fantastic land. Nothing like it. No stones, drains well, not clay like the Champlain Valley.
And the last couple of years, we have had some pretty good flooding. How much of that production was underwater? I know it was down by the
None
river.
for us because we know where to plant, and we're not like over, around Burlington where they have these floodplains they plant in every year. So we don't plant in floodplains. And we're fortunate some of the land we rent, even up on the Oxbow north of Newbury, it's pretty flood prone for river bottom. We got caught occasionally, just one spot here and there, tail end of the field. But no, that can wipe you out.
That's great. Obviously, you've scaled a lot in the last 40 or so years. What did you envision the farm would look like when you started? Did you have goals of getting to this size, or did you just
No, we just started in, one piece at a time and found the crops that we like to grow. And we find, as I said earlier, greenhouses are really important because it extends the growing season tremendously. We'll sell, let's say we'll start here by, middle of May, and we'll have full range of produce right up until our workers go home the 1st of November. And we could continue after that, but they have to go home and they only can stay here for 6 months. Besides, they want to go home and see their families.
Yeah, understood.
And it's getting cold.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've probably about had enough by then too. Start winding down.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, we need to wind down quickly because when they leave, who's going to do all the work?
Yeah.
We have all these greenhouses that need to be cleaned out and composted and get ready with plastic over the winter And so the last 2 or 3 weeks get pretty frantic because we realize, I don't want to spend my winter cleaning up greenhouses when it's cold and freezing out. So yes.
What are some techniques or lessons learned that you maybe have incorporated to manage a crew of people like that?
An interesting question. Not quite sure how to answer that. More and more, as we have some of the same workers back, I think what we need to do is and we're starting to do that more and more, have one of our more experienced workers from Mexico be more of a manager.
Yep.
So we aren't trying to manage 10 people every day. We have to go out there every morning so that he can say, okay, he takes this crew and does that. Because, as I say, the labor bill is huge and this has to be efficient. You can't have them doing, too many people on one job and not enough on a job. So it's just labor management. But they're really good at that.
That's good. Who's been an inspiration or mentor or influence for you?
Probably way back have to be my father because, as I said, he promised my mother, when they finally got together, they said they went through the Depression, times were tough. And when he finally managed to buy a place of his own, and we had a huge garden, and we put all kinds of stuff away. And I sort of copied him on a small scale when I was working at the Putney School. So I had to have a garden too. And I found, I really enjoyed doing that. So I think once I got through my skiing career, I was on the U.S. ski team for 14 years, and they said just struggling to get by. Once I got on my own, I said, well, what the heck? I can grow a lot of my own food and really enjoy doing it. Put the same energy I put into skiing into farming.
Skiing has obviously been a constant throughout your entire life. You did it
absolutely
all the way through. Still are. You
You
said you just got back from Switzerland. So
yeah. Well,
talk a little bit about your skiing career. Let's hear some of those accolades. What you did in that realm.
Well, I started skiing in high school. At the Putney School, John Caldwell, who had just come back from the 52 Olympics, showed up with a math teacher and a ski coach. And I was, oh my God, Olympian, whatever you say, I'll do. And so I started skiing and did very well in high school. That managed to get me a scholarship to the University of Colorado, which paid for a big part of my college education. And then in 1962, I tried out for the World Championship team and made it, went to Finland, first trip to Europe. Spent 2 months over there, loved Finland. And I continued. I tried out in 64 for the Olympics. I missed that. That was back then we had draft, and I was in the Marine Corps. I wasn't quite fit enough to make the team, but I tried out again in 66 and made that. 68, I made the Olympic team. I went to Grenoble, France. 72, I made the Olympic team and went to Japan. And 74, I finally called it quits because I realized I had other things in my life I need to focus on. So, and immediately jumped into farming. Yeah, skiing's been good to me. It keeps me physically fit and gives me something to focus on every year. It's pretty easy to sit in a chair and do nothing in the wintertime. But I love skiing, and it goes way back to actually when I was in the Marine Corps. I was still skiing, and instead of sending me to Vietnam, because of my skiing background, I ended up in the Sierra Nevada mountains teaching, wintertime tactics and military mountain warfare training center. What it was, yeah, had a 3-year paid vacation in the Sierra Nevada mountains instead of the jungles of Vietnam. I probably wouldn't be here had I gone to Vietnam. So I go skiing a lot. Yeah, and I'm still doing it because it's something I do every year, and get me motivated to keep out and keep exercising. And skiing, if you can walk, you can ski. So you can ski until you're 90 years old. I'm getting close to that now.
Let's keep pushing that.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful experience to go. This last year I went to Switzerland and competed with athletes from at least 20 other countries. Yeah. Have a big banquet at the end, get to see everybody. And yeah. And it's a lot of good friends over the years.
I was going to say, if you've been doing that, you said you were skiing with your age group, so that you must have friends over there.
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. That's wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah. And the age group's really important, not to digress, but because we don't get faster, we only get slower. And I just moved to a new age group last year, and the one Finn, who's unbelievable, I cannot beat, was still 3 years behind me. So I managed to win my age group.
Front of the pack again.
The front of the pack again, yeah.
Nice. So how many ski trails do you have here around the farm?
Well, in the past I had quite a few, and also because we're a little lower elevation up in West Newbury, 3 miles up on the hill, there's a nice field, pretty high elevation field, hay field that you can mow closely in the fall, so you can ski on almost no snow. So mostly I skied up there for myself, and I coached the Oxbow high school team with a woman down there who was a music teacher, and she had a skiing background. So we worked together and coached that for 4, 5, 6 years, had a good local team. So I've been grooming for skiing forever. I still have a snow machine with a groomer. I go out, but mostly I do it high. But now I also go mainly on the railroad bed up in Groton, the Buckaroo's 302 snow. They do a really good job, and the railroad bed's fairly flat and easy to ski on with minimal snow. So this year, when we had little snow early, I just skied up back and forth there, did my training there. Yes,
that's an incredible trail. I snowmobile, so
yes. They do a phenomenal
those
job.
Trails around that area.
They do a phenomenal job.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rail bed's nice and flat, like you said. You can get away with minimal snow. And
yes.
That's often a question I ask is towards the end of the conversation is what do you do to kind of relax your brain or get away from farming?
Well, skiing's a big thing.
Answer,
yes, I've done it every winter. It's all part of who I am. And as I said, if I didn't have it, who knows? I think my health would be as good because, yeah. And as I say, you can do it at any age. If you can walk, you can ski. Cross-country ski. I'm not talking about alpine. That's a whole other story. Don't want any part of it.
No.
I'd rather ski uphill than down.
Like you said, it's a little slower, a little safer.
Yes. And not so likely to break something.
Yeah. What tool or equipment could you not live without?
Well, I suppose basically you need to have a rotor tiller. We plow and harrow, turn the sod over. They say rotor tilling's bad for the soil, but only if you overdo it. You can wear the soil out pretty quickly, but rotation is really important. You can only use a piece of land so long before you just wear it out. And then it needs to go back into a permanent crop like sod, and that's where the dairy cows come in. We can seed it back down to hay ground and give it a rest for a little while. There's nothing like new soil. Any grower, Jake will tell you the same thing. New soil's like heaven. That's like the pioneers when they finally went to the West, right?
Yeah.
After a few years, they say, Ma, we need to go west again. Our soil isn't as good as it was. New ground just, and rotation. Strawberries love new ground, especially. If we try after 4, 5, 6 years, we have trouble growing good strawberries. A weed will come in you can't control or something. So yes. I'm really big on cultivation, and we have some really small Alice Chalmers G tractors that they made there back in the 1940, 49. Really small engine in the back, all kind of sees us exactly what's going on. So we have 2 or 3 of those. I try to get those set up with just the right set of cultivators or basket weeders or whatever, and just jumping on when the weather's right, when the sun's shining, so you can kill the weeds, not just move them around. It's really, really helpful. I think cultivation is absolutely essential. And we have, and we also have a big basket weeder to kind of covers the ground really quickly. It doesn't like tilling. It just cuffs up the top layer to kill weeds and level things out. If you catch the weeds when they're small, before they have much root growth or stem growth, once they get big, you can pull them out and throw them on the ground. They're going to root again because they get all the strength from the stem and the root. But when they're just a couple inches long, you can kill them in an hour in the sunshine. So it's all timing.
Smaller the better.
Smaller is better, yes. Yeah, weeds are big. As you farm, as you say, you develop some weeds you can't control, and it's not sure how to get rid of them. I guess when the really bad fields, we now put them down to plastic and plant through the plastic. Otherwise, and once you get seeds in the soil, they're there. They're there almost forever. I mean, unless you're going to field cultivate once a week for 2 years, maybe you'll get rid of most of them. But they're still down below. You bring them up to the right level, they germinate, and away they go again. So we pollute a lot of fields, and I feel badly when we do it. It shouldn't happen. Hopefully, maybe in the future, I can get my family better, not letting weeds ever go to seed.
You pollute them with weed seeds is what you're saying.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible, yeah.
I imagine it's hard when you've got so much going on.
So much going on, that's right. But it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hope we could step up to the challenge. But it's a matter of education, how important it is to do it right.
Do you have a standard rotation that you try to live by, or does it?
Well, yes, my son's pretty much taken over that, so I'm no longer in control, but hopefully he's got a good program going. As I get older, they push me more to the back seat, and it has to happen sometime. We have difference of opinion, but whatever. Hopefully they learn.
What are some of those differences that you think are what varies between you two as far as how you want to farm?
I think it's all keeping things in order and attention to detail. Details will get you every time. You just can't, it's a matter of how, when you finish a field, it needs to be really smooth. You can't be rough and bumpy and whatever, it has to be really done just right. So it's pretty easy to control the weeds if you do it timely and, just right.
How has the farm succession been? How's that process been, and the transition over the years?
Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
And we're about in the middle of it, I guess, or maybe toward the ends of it. Hopefully they can take over and keep it going because, as I said, we're in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. And it's really heartwarming to produce local food for people to eat, good, healthy food, which what this country needs desperately. Desperately.
So you say right place, right time, in the aspect that there's still a market for fresh veggies.
Of course.
That's where I'm coming from.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, this Connecticut Valley is sad, but right now, one dairy farmer down here with, I don't know how many 1,000 head of cows, planting just corn for cows. This should be growing vegetable food for people to eat. It's such a perfect, and we're very close to markets. Yeah, this land is fantastic. But that's a whole nother thing, Someone had to step in and start growing wholesale produce. That's a tough market to get into. Mm-hmm. But locally, yes. Yeah.
What started off the farm succession discussions?
Probably haven't had enough discussions. It just sort of happened. Yeah. But,
so they showed a little more interest, and
oh yes, yeah. Well, I mean, frankly, it's a good life. You have to work your tail off in the summer, but you're right here. Your kids can grow up in a farm. You can get up every day and go to work. Sometimes they can go with you, or they can come help you sometimes, or sit on a tractor seat, or rather than having to go to work for somebody else at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning every day and come home at night. You're right here with them. Perfect place to bring up a family. And it's a beautiful location, fresh air, sunshine, and hopefully the children will learn how to work.
Yeah.
So they can also, that's our thing, is to keep this farm our farm forever. We're really big on, my wife and I are really, really big on that. Nobody can sell it. It can't be sold. If you don't want a farmer, we'll find someone that does want a farm. Mm-hmm. And they can stay here until their time is done, and then they pass it on to somebody else. And if you farm well and plan right, you should be able to end up a little money in your pocket when you get done and actually retire here on the farm if you want. There's plenty of houses. I'm going to pass on pretty soon to get a whole house here somebody can live in. I think it's really a worthwhile goal. And we keep this farm for the next 200 years, just growing produce for people to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the future of the farm is really, really important to myself and my wife. And I think they're feeling it now. They're really feeling it.
Feeling what?
My son, 2 sons, and their family begin to feel this is an important thing to do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you don't make a lot of money, but you got a place to live. You got food to eat. Your taxes are paid. You don't pay rent.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of money unless you want to do some crazy thing.
You get to enjoy the most beautiful days of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned your sons are doing a lot of it now. What's your role? How much are you doing on the daily basis? And
well, because I'm no longer really the manager, so I have to find my own little niche where I don't ruffle any feathers. Right now, this afternoon, I'm going to go out and cut up some firewood that was left in a big messy pile that needs to be cleaned up and neatened up so it doesn't. And we burn wood in all our greenhouses, have for years. It isn't the sole source of heat. It used to be way, way back when we first had our greenhouse, but it's a secondary source. But propane stoves are notorious for quitting all of a sudden in the middle of a 10 above night. And you have about an hour maximum before you freeze all your plants. So every night when the sun goes down, I built some big stoves, oil drum stoves, with a whole lot of wood in all the greenhouses. And I have some barrel stoves too in the smaller houses. And when the sun goes down every night this time of year, you go out and you start a fire. Because as soon as the sun goes down, the propane heat comes on. Save your money. And then on an average night, you have to go out again at 10 o'clock, fill all the stoves up full and shut them down tight. So if the propane quits, there's enough residual heat in that wood stove to keep things from freezing. And it means you got a chance to go down and sort of communicate with your plants at 10 o'clock every night. And maybe you see somebody left a door open, or a wind blew a door open, or a vent got left open. And plants, especially tomato plants, love wood heat. It's a much drier heat than propane, so you have less disease issues because the wood stove really dries everything out. And I think they even thank you when you go down at night. It's nice to get that feeling with your plants. They just say, every year there's some grower that just has propane. Oh, my stove lost all my plants. Well, how are you going to get tomato plants again? They were grown 2 months ago.
Right.
Somewhere.
Right.
And you can't just order them up. There are no plants available. So, and then you don't get to plant tomato plants until August, and that doesn't work.
So you're still burning wood in greenhouses?
We burn at least 50 cord a year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
Yeah.
So are you working with a logger, or do you have forest to cut
We
from?
don't have forest, but we have a really good logger that brings us log loads. This year we brought some beautiful stuff, just the right diameter, 16 feet long, no knots, bumps. And our workers come over, and when you line them up, it's so efficient. They roll it forward, cut it, split it, pile it right behind them. And in a week, they'll do the whole 50 cord and have them all ready to go.
So you don't have a firewood processor?
No, don't need to. This is in a way more efficient.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I only one log, one piece at a time.
Yeah.
These guys can cut, 3 or 4 pieces and turn right around and have 2 splitters going.
Chainsaws. And what kind of splitters are you running?
Well, we bought one, it's a smaller one. I got also one that goes in the back of a tractor. So they're set up, turn around, split it, pile it, don't move more than 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
The big pile of unsplit, uncut wood is right there. So we move it just enough so that the pile keeps up. They have to take more than 2 steps to turn around and pile it. It's very efficient. And then we cover it with clear plastic, maybe like a 4-foot wide pile, two lengths of wood. And so that dries over the summer. And we usually cut enough 1 year to last for 2 years.
Yeah.
We also heat our house with wood.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you cutting wood every spring and keeping?
Try to. Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year we had enough for 2 years, but now we're all up. So didn't order quite as much this year because it's getting expensive, and we had to cut back on some of the spring expenses. But
Yeah. That's a lot of firewood.
And Vermont's loaded with wood. Everywhere you look, there's wood.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. It's not.
And more of it growing every day.
Yeah. Not like 100 years ago. We're mostly wooded.
That's right. And most of it trash wood too, which isn't good for firewood because it takes too much time to cut up. But we can send it up to power plant and make power out of it. Mm-hmm. I just got back from Switzerland. There's not a crooked tree in Switzerland.
No?
Not a crooked tree. And there's no trash in the woods. On banks so steep you can't even stand on them. It's amazing. Because over the years, they've just developed, for such a small country, they have plenty of wood. Every single open spot that doesn't grow hay grows trees. No, it's pretty impressive.
Like farming trees.
Farming trees.
Yeah. Not just.
Oh, no,
forest.
there is no trash. There is no junk. Huh. Maybe it isn't good for the birds and whatever, and dead nests, but whatever. They're not too worried about it.
Yeah. So that's a lot of wood to move around. I take it, your wood cutting area and greenhouses are probably not in the same spot.
Well, yeah. Well, they just, because it's all piled neatly, in the fall, all of a sudden it's wood time. And we get 2 or 3 flatbed trucks and trailers, and they do it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
These guys know how to work. Yeah. And they fill our cellar full of 10 cord of wood. I used to do it myself, but let them do it now. So, yeah.
It's a lot of wood.
Yeah.
But 10 cord of wood with a crew of 10 people all of a sudden goes pretty quick.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I do 3 or 4 cord a year myself, so that's enough. But
it's good. It's good exercise.
Absolutely.
You have to bend over and pick it up.
Yep.
And go up. I have this furnace. I have to go downstairs and up 3 or 4 times a day in the winter. That's all exercise.
Yeah, yes, it's great exercise,
Yep.
especially this time of year. Get your arms back into shape for the hay season.
Yeah, that's right. I used to split it all by hand way back when, but not anymore.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the hydraulic splitters.
Yes,
yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah. What's a time when you felt really successful farming?
Well, I think probably after being here, the first 10 years, we really began to, come into it. We were growing crops and managing them well, picking lots of strawberries. Everything was under control. And we actually were saving money, putting money away, which isn't happening nowadays, but hopefully we can at least maintain what we're doing. Yeah. But said we were only supporting one family. It made a tremendous difference.
Right.
Family with children and expenses and everything else. So, yeah.
The money you're putting away is going to 3 households.
Yes, it's right. But I think it can be managed. It just has to be managed really well. Understand? Don't just spend money if you don't have to. Do you really need this item? Can you get along without it?
What's a nice to have? What's a need to have?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting that you said it took about 10 years before you felt like the flywheel was spinning.
Well, confident enough to know that, yes, we can make this work.
Yeah. Because I talk to young farmers now and business planners now, and they're saying about the same as 7 to 10 years before you really kind of have the infrastructure you need and your systems in place.
Yes. Yeah.
On the contrary, what's a time when you felt really challenged farming?
Now,
to
do the transition, because everybody has their own ideas, and sometimes my ideas aren't taken into account anymore. But it has to happen. People have to do it themselves and figure it out.
And it's frustrating.
Very frustrating.
Yeah,
frankly, very frustrating. But we'll see what happens.
Is that a difference of opinion, or just because you've done things for a certain way for a while, or
a little bit of both?
Yeah.
I've seen what happens when you do it right, and maybe they'll have to be convinced by themselves some days. Maybe the old man knew what he's talking about.
Do you think a lot of that comes from because you've already made those mistakes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said, on the calendar, you shouldn't make the same mistake twice. So you shouldn't be farming. Yeah.
What's you mentioned, weeds are tough to handle, but what's a mistake that you really don't want to make again, or something you wish you hadn't done?
Well, that was a long time ago. Haven't made too many major mistakes. We had a major, excuse me again, issue with strawberries for a while, but it wasn't our fault. We were getting some bad plants from Canada, and it was all everywhere. And nobody said anything about it. The nurseries wouldn't say anything about it. Finally, the truth came out, and so we had 2 or 3 bad strawberry years. We lost crops because they all died, but that wasn't our fault. That's just, we went through a struggle there for a while. But strawberries are a tricky crop. They really are, but it's also a major crop for us because of the pick your own, and people come just for our strawberries, so it's a major source of income for us. But they have to be grown properly so you can really make money on them. There's a potential to make really good money on them. But if you grow a halfway crop, you just break even.
Yeah, strawberries just seem like a high risk, high reward sort of crop.
Yeah, but we have the knowledge. Well, I have the knowledge on how to grow them properly. And I think that my son's gaining on that way.
Yeah. I mean,
last year we grow the day neutral strawberries as well, which is the California type. They're a whole different animal. It's a long story. They're called daylight neutral because they don't care what the day length is. Regular strawberries, the June crop, depends on day length to decide whether they're going to make blossoms or fruit or whatever. But anyway, we grow them a little differently here. We let them ripen fully. And last year we started picking day neutral strawberries, and we had to struggle with the crop in the beginning. We had some problem with disease and not good plants, but finally got it straightened out by mid-August. We picked strawberries up until the 1st of November.
Wow.
The 1st of November, we're picking strawberries. Beautiful strawberries. Yeah. And that's, And normally you pick strawberries for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Not 3 months. And they're delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing's better than a fresh berry in the late fall.
And nobody else is doing that around here. Canada does it. Canada does a really good job. And they bring them in down here to the co-ops and stuff. We used to have a market there. We sort of lost it, but maybe we can get back into it again. But
yeah, that's not the norm. And do you think that's because they're harder to grow, or like why do you think that they're not as...
It's a whole different mindset.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. And you have to have good plants, treat it properly, fertilize properly. And keep the, sometimes they're really minor issues with an insect you didn't know was even there. Until you start, I see. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what's doing that. So you have to live and breathe them. You have to be out there every day looking at them to find out what they need.
There's several different systems of growing berries. I know you guys have done them all.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
Well, I really like growing them through plastic now.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the weed issue. But you can only plastic berries maximum is almost 2 years. You might squeak a 3rd year because strawberry plants grow up. And on the old system, the bare ground system, every year you have to throw more dirt over the plant so it can put out new roots. The roots come higher on the stem every year. And so with plastic, you can plant them as deep as you can in the plastic, but after 2 years, you're trying to put our roots on top of the plastic. So then they lose all their vigor. But no matter, you can really, and with, anyway, I just listened to the phone there. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. So, you can really, first of all, we can get them earlier because with the black plastic, they warm up sooner. We can put a row cover over them so we can extend the growing season. And renovation with bare ground strawberries is quite a struggle. It's really, you have to go in and mow them off and thin them down and put fertilizer on them and throw dirt up on top. If you don't do it exactly right, maybe you don't get the irrigation in soon enough for some reason, and then pretty soon the plants aren't growing back the way they should. So more and more, I think plastic's the way to grow them.
Yeah. What's the renovation look like in a plasticulture system?
Pull the plastic, they're all done.
Okay.
Yeah. You just mow them. Mow them off. And away you go.
So if you're trying to squeeze a 2nd year out of them.
2nd year is not a problem. 2nd year is good.
Yeah.
3rd year can be. And what we have done is pull the plastic up and maybe try to throw some dirt over them. It's okay, but I'm not sure it's worth the effort. It's kind of hard to get an even layer of dirt over a 3-foot wide bed, because so I think just 2 years and be done with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you may even get higher yields on a bare ground system. It's done perfectly, but it's really hard to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
We've had some incredible yields way back when the courts were actually touching each other as you pick. Yeah. 10,000 quarts per acre. That's then you're making money.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
Instead of 5, which is about we're struggling with now. So, yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Management.
Oh. What do you think the struggle is now? Is it spray schedules or weed management or?
Well, in bare ground, it's weed management. But if you start with good, clean ground and keep it clean, don't let the weeds get in there. You're probably, I mean, way back in the beginning when I've had strawberry plants for 8 and 9 years, same plants. Mm-hmm. And no weed issues. The only problem was by then you get so many sub-crowns. You know, each plant has 10 crowns instead of 2 or 3 that the berries get small. Mm. And yeah, nobody wants to pick small berries. They all want big berries.
Well, it takes forever to pick. And
yeah. Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give to your beginning self when knowing what you know now? What would you wish you could tell yourself when you were getting started?
Well, back then we had so much to learn. The University of Vermont Extension had bus tours going to other farms, Canada, everywhere. We went to every single one when we could, and you accumulate knowledge from. And we, way back when we first started, even in Heartland, we were lucky enough to get connected with a consultant who had probably 40 or 50 at least growers around the country that he consulted with. And he would drive around in his van, camp on their farm, and give them advice. And he was fantastic. He got us on the right track right away. That's when we really, really started. And we got to visit all the other growers. And if he said, Bob, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Because he just consulted and seen 30 to 40 to 50 other growers. He knew exactly how to do it. That's when we were really on a roll. Because we had to,
from a growing perspective.
From a growing perspective, yeah.
Yep.
What varieties to grow, how to grow them, how to put dirt over them, when to fertilize them. If you get winter kill, you can cut your crowns every spring. If they look a little brown, then you give a little fertilizer at this date. Not too soon, not too late. If you're too late, they become vegetative. Too soon, it doesn't amount to anything. Little tricks like that. And I had a whole notebook. I hope my son Charlie's got that notebook somewhere because it was invaluable advice. Mm. Other than that, no, we just learned by growing. And you learn, And pretty soon we pretty much knew what we were doing, but only by visiting other growers and tweaking our system a little bit. We used to go to Canada all the time and visit the Canadian growers up there because they're really good. Up around Quebec City, they're really, really good.
How did you connect with growers that you didn't know?
Through the consultant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we visit all his farm people. Unfortunately, he passed away some years ago, so we lost him. He was fantastic.
What advice would you give to a beginning farmer now?
I would say just jump in with both feet and start small. Find out what works and develop markets. So people are looking for growers all the time. And you can start small in a little valley, and if it's just one family you're trying to support, if you really do a good job, and I think greenhouses are absolutely essential in this climate. We're lucky here in the valley because just one ridge over is a whole different climate. And look here, it's bare ground, grass starting to grow.
Yeah.
Up in the hills, they still have snow. So, yeah, don't try to farm on the north side of a hill. Find a good warm pocket and watch out for frost because cold air is like water, it runs downhill. If you're in a little pocket in the valley, you're going to have frost forever. Better go up on a hillside somewhere that faces south. Then you can avoid those frosts. We're a pretty good frost pocket here because, not too bad, but because it sloped here to the west, and on the other side of the river, it slopes a little bit the other way. Further up toward beyond just north of the village, that's really wide open there. Mm. And this one piece of ground we're renting there now, the cold has to come down, cross the river once, cross the piece of flat ground, cross the river again. It's the same thing other side. So time it gets to our field, it's not terribly frost prone compared to here. Yeah, frost's a killer, Although lately it hasn't been nearly as bad. I can remember in May, trying to frost protect strawberries because they're in blossom, and it's down to 14 degrees in May. You know, you're out there trying to beat on sprinklers to get water on. Everything's freezing. And we haven't had those. I mean, climate change is real. It's unbelievable. Like I said, we picked strawberries until the 1st of November last year.
Right.
Didn't even have a frost, a killing frost in October. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
When it first came, we did get a killing frost here the last week of September.
You probably used to be putting straw on the berries in early November.
Yes. Yeah.
Not still picking them.
Exactly, yeah. Now we have to wait sometimes till Christmas in order to, because you want your berries to go to sleep before you cover them up. Otherwise, you smother them.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, we had pretty good snow this year. It went so fast. I wish it lasted another 2 weeks, because you want to keep the strawberries asleep until April. Mm-hmm. Then they can wake up, oh, sunshine. If they grow too soon, then you got to worry about blossoms coming too early.
I was wondering about that because 2 weeks ago it was warm.
Yeah.
And like you said, the snow went away real fast. It felt like April. It felt like we skipped March, and then this week was cold. And
but that's what the straw does. I went yesterday. I was over there, and I jump out of my truck and take my jackknife and go cut a crown, because that's how you tell how much winter injury you have. And I actually tried to tap my jackknife down. It was still frozen because they had the straws keeping, which is good, keeps it cool.
Yeah.
But I cut just one crown. I should cut more, and actually it was creamy white. So but that was just one crown. I need to cut some more. That's what you want to see. If you have brown down, you have winter kill in there, it can really slow your yield down.
Mm-hmm. What does sustainable farming mean to you, and what are you doing to achieve it?
Well, it's certainly important. You know, as I said, if you can wear the ground out, so you have to really be aware of that. Don't beat it to death, and give it a chance to recover. As I said, we have a dairy farm. Certainly not a moneymaker, but we have really good manure, and manure is fantastic. If it's the only fertilizer you use, you should be just fine, especially if your cows are fed good food and, you know, you get the minerals they need in their feed. It passes through the manure. And the important thing my dad always said, it's not just the manure, it's the bacteria in the manure. A lot of these one large dairy farm down here, they're spreading liquid stuff all over the place. It's so full of chemical from their wash water and everything else. I don't think there's any bacteria in it. Mm. Yeah. Anyway, sustainable. Yeah, I think. Yeah, don't beat the ground to death. Use lots of manure. Rotate crops. Keep the soil healthy. We in our greenhouses, I tell you, we grow greenhouse tomatoes. In some houses right now, maybe 1 or 2 year interruption once in a while, but we've been growing tomatoes in the same house for 40 years. Say it can't be done, but you can. We have beds, and we put not finished compost, fairly half-finished compost, because the bacteria and the worms like to eat something. Mm. And there are earthworms in there that eat all it and fill the bed full of compost, of worm castings. You can dig down, it's just beautiful. The soil's so crumbly. And of course, we use grafted plants now because they're soil diseased tomato plants. They make tremendous difference. But no, our tomato plants grow beautifully in the same soil, in the same house for up to 40 years.
And cow manure and compost is really the ticket for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, good manure. Good manure, yeah.
How thick of that are you putting in those houses?
Not an awful lot. Probably go down with wheelbarrows and dump it in and scatter maybe a 1 or 2 inch layer. Yeah. But every year the soils build up, so we have to make raised beds. Now some beds are hemlock boards are 12 inches high now, and we said they're too big. So now that soil's so valuable, what are we going to do? We may actually have to go in and take some of it out, because we can't go to 14 and 15 inch beds. It's ridiculous. So we're going to take some of that and put it somewhere in another greenhouse, because it's so good.
Share the wealth a little bit.
Share the wealth, yes. We love the bed system. I think that, to me, is absolutely essential.
So built raised beds like in plywood and boards.
Yes, with boards. And then in the wintertime, we put black plastic over it, because there are some weeds, I forgot the name of one of them, that love to grow all winter long. Mm. You can go down there and, oh my God, what happened? You got a whole bed full of weeds growing in the wintertime. So you put plastic over so the weeds can't grow. And the worms come up and crawl around and do things. In the spring, the first thing we take the black plastic off, put clear plastic on. This is a raised bed, right? Mm-hmm. Way back in the beginning, we didn't have raised beds. It was hard to get the ground temperature up. And we used to put hot water pipes under all the beds, following some of our Canadian grower friends. That's what they did. But they were also planting the 1st of February. We now plant the 1st of March, or thereabouts. The 1st of March versus we used to plant the 1st of March. Now we plant the 1st of April, the last week of March. And with clear plastic over there in those raised beds, the ground temperature is up to 60 degrees when you're ready to plant, with no underground heat or anything. Yeah.
Just using the sun.
Just using the sun. And then we put, between the beds, we put ground fabric, whatever, so there's no weeds. Or actually, we put white plastic to reflect the light. It's just a beautiful system. Yeah. Yeah. Our tomato plants come back in middle of October and see how tall they've grown. I mean, the plants are literally 30 feet long. We lowered them down that much over the summer.
You're lowering and leaning.
Lowering, leaning, yeah. And then
keeping them
going. The root system's way down in the middle of the greenhouse and the top's up there.
just keep threading them back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, our workers do that. They're amazing. And when you get the corner of the end of the road, they just turn around and bring them back the other way. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
A vine. It's a big vine.
Yeah. So we get tremendous yields. We don't grow just one, some people just grow it 4 or 5 feet tall and then stop. No, we lower them down. They're all strung up with a spool that holds the thread, the string. You lower them down. It's a really good system. I'm not sure tomatoes are our most profitable crop, but it certainly draws people in because there's a lot of labor, tremendous amount of labor to string them. And the heat, this time of year we run, propane's running every night. From now on, we'll actually run propane almost all summer. Make sure we can keep the temperature up to 70 degrees at night.
So you're holding 70 degrees overnight?
Yeah. Yes.
Starting in March?
Starting in March, yeah.
That's toasty, but...
They love it. They grow like hell.
And you have them in market in May,
yeah,
which is great. gets that cash flow, which you've mentioned is challenging.
Challenging, yeah.
Coming in sooner. Do you do any bedding plants and things like that?
Oh,
too?
yes.
Yeah.
That has been in my department. My wife is doing it now. My son Peter's wife Marie is doing a great job. She just said now they're going to, how many 100 hanging baskets they're going to make? I think it's too many, but they all sell. So somebody's got to water them every day. But no, it's important. And we do a few tomato plants and broccoli, cauliflower plants and lettuce plants, but big thing, the flowers.
What do you think has been your greatest achievement in your farming career?
Well, just to make a living farming, and feel comfortable with it and confident that it can be done. Yeah. If I went sold, I'd start in tomorrow, do the same thing. just to show that it can be done. Just start from scratch.
Yeah.
Little garden somewhere with some available land and start in again.
If you were starting over now, do you think you'd basically do the same thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And modify a little bit. I think greenhouses that are absolutely important. You got to extend the season. So we have stuff to offer, not just tomatoes wouldn't come until the end of July. And now we have them in May with lettuce and anything you want. Salad. You can hardly wait till summer. Have a salad every single night. Huge salad. Lettuce and cucumbers and tomatoes. And so good for you.
Nothing beats fresh vegetables.
No, absolutely.
What made you almost quit, and why didn't you?
Never came close to quitting.
No,
never
even a consideration.
Never even considered it. No, even when I was by myself, way back down in Putney, before I met my wife and we got together, I was growing vegetables, selling at the farmer's market. I said, "This works. This works, no question." Yeah, and I said, better than we're having to work for somebody else, which I did for years. Get up every morning, show up in the job, and home at night. Yeah. Just with one walk behind rototiller and my hoe and cultivator, and push cultivator, and it was working. I could see it would work.
Well, I know not every day is a great day. So what kept you going, and what gave you hope?
Well, just see that it works.
You just have faith that things are going to keep coming.
There was never a question. There was never a bad time because it just worked. It worked really well and really quickly too. We were expanding like crazy, growing more crops, and people were coming. Yeah. There were a few mistakes, but nothing major.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so confident I could do it again.
And I think you were diversified enough that if something struggled, something else carried the weight.
I think
right?
diversity is really important.
Yeah.
It's also a pain in the neck because you can't got too many things to keep track of. But it means if you got a crop failure, you got something else to back you up. Monocropping can be a disaster.
How many cows do you have now?
Well, the dairy, they're milking about high 20s, maybe 30, I guess. It's very small, and we have this young man that seems to enjoy doing it. It's hard to find someone who wants to milk cows anymore, even though he has a nice place to live, and we aren't pushing too much else on him. All he's got to do is milk the cows night and morning.
Yeah.
But we also have a huge herd of Highland cattle that we got years and years ago because I clear cut the back 40 up here where all the rocks and stones and things were. And I didn't want to see it grow back up. And so we got 8, I think, Highland cattle. Some guy had some, didn't want to deal with them anymore. And now we've had them forever and ever. The little inbred, we need a new bull and last year, I think we had almost 50, which is way too many. We need 20.
50?
Yeah. We need 20. And my son's working on it, but we're down to like 35 now, but we need to get rid of them. It's just too many. Too much hay to feed them in the winter.
Yeah.
Then we have to buy hay to feed them. But they keep that part up there absolutely open. They don't need pine trees. Mm-hmm. And where we cleared was all pine trees, but any hardwood, they just chew it right down. If it's 2 inches diameter and they want it, they just ride it down and eat the tops off. But mostly it's the pine. So once in a while, I have to go up there with our workers, our Mexicans, and clip out the pine trees because in 10 years, you'll be right back in the forest. But they go, it's just small, they clip through, and every 2 or 3 years, we go up with the clippers and clip the pine trees out.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a beautiful spot. I mean, it's almost 50 acres up here. It looks at the White Mountains. And they go in the forest and make it look like a park. They don't need pine trees. So young pine trees are coming in our pine forest. So it's a good forestry project. And they eat all the grass around the trees and stuff. So it's really nice.
Then you sell the beef at the farm store?
Yes,
farm
we sell
stand.
the beef at the farm stand. Yeah. But we have too many. I just keep harping on my son, you've got to get rid of more. And he doesn't spend all his time all winter feeding them.
Yeah, right.
We feed round bales. So you go up and kick off a couple round bales. And I used to roll them down the hill so they spread out. So they can all eat in one. And then they spread the manure more evenly in the field. Yeah.
That's a benefit of hillside farming.
Yes.
Drop the bale facing down.
And they get all excited, starts bouncing down, they kick up their heels and go chasing after. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
We also feed them in a shed, too, to get the manure.
Uh-huh.
But the manure is not quite as good as the dairy manure because there's more bedding and they probably don't get the same nutrients that cows are getting grain every day.
Yeah.
To keep all the mineral balance and everything up.
Yeah, you're in a hard spot this day and age. It seems like either people have, 2 cows for their homestead or 200.
Yeah. Or 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 20 to 50 cow herds are.
If you look around here now and just look out the window, it's all open. It looks like a park.
Yeah.
That's because the cows graze it. They graze stuff you can't put a tractor on.
Right.
You can't put a tractor over a stone wall to get the vegetation that comes up, and the cows can eat the brush that comes in. And in the summertime, they go out, they harvest their own feed, and they spread their own manure. That's the way nature intended. And the pastures maintain fertility because they spread their own. And occasionally you may go out with a little thing, my dad used to call it a turd knocker, but just a chain drag and spread the manure around the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that can go on forever and ever. 100 years.
Yeah.
Just, maintaining a pasture for the cows to eat, and they're spreading manure and fertilizing it. You ever see a dried cow turd in the field? You kick it over, it's crawling with worms and every kind of bug you can think of, consuming it and putting it back in the soil. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and all those bugs are loosening up the soil as well.
Yeah. I just got back from Switzerland also. We flew over parts of Germany. There's not a blade of grass out of place. And everything, little tiny hill farms everywhere. They farm things you can't even walk on because they care. And they're all small farms, no big farms, all small farms. And they're supported by the government because the skiers, the mountains, if farmers went there, would grow up to be brush and nobody would go to Switzerland to see the views. And so the farmers in the valleys, high up in the valleys, make the same amount of money that people live in the city do. So everybody's happy. Yeah. These small farms around should have been subsidized years ago. We'd have a national park. The only place left was real farms. You could put a gate at each end of the valley and charge people admission to go see a real farm. I'm not joking. I'm serious.
Yeah, that would have been.
It could be done.
Yeah. Talk about agritourism there. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I've traveled enough
you've seen it
by my skiing career to see how it can be done.
Yeah.
I met some years ago, I went over to a meeting with a bunch of farmers and they just looked at me and laughed. Now those farms aren't even there. If they could have ended up with $10,000 in their pocket, they'd have farmed forever. But they couldn't afford to lose $10,000 a year anymore.
Right.
And $10,000 would be dropped in the bucket in the overall budget, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot to make a big difference on a little farm.
No, exactly. And they're happy and they're raising a family, but
yeah.
No, but it's just a mentality, you know.
How has the marketplace changed over your farming career, and where do you think it might go?
Well, it's not getting nothing but better here. Our customers, we have a customer base comes, and we get a lot of tourists come because they come up here and they come one time, they come again. But our main customer base is local, but that goes 30, 40 miles in either direction, especially on a weekend when people want to take a drive and see the beautiful dairy farm with cows grazing.
The park.
The park. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we got rid of dairy. No, we can't get rid of the dairy cows.
They're an attraction.
They're an attraction. And people come, they love to take pictures of them. They see the dry cows out there, but the fence begging for attention. So they get to pet the dry cows who are no longer in the barn. They're kind of lonely. They want somebody to talk to.
What was hard when you started, but maybe easy now?
Well, finance was hard, I guess, but we just did it because we had to borrow money from the government to buy this place. And back then they had a government low interest loan. Back then it was 5%. Unfortunately, when we were asking for the money, we had it all allotted, and then all of a sudden some farmer in Iowa got part of it. So we were short, but my wife, Kim, had some family friends who lived next to us in Heartland Four Corners where we started, and they loaned us some money, $50,000 to cover the balance at a low interest loan. So after 2 years, they came every year and they looked at all this and that. Oh, you're doing really well. We're going to bump you up to 10%.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Oh, gee, thanks. We had a 40-year mortgage, right? He said, screw you. Went to the local bank at 10%. Made it 20 years. And then we bought the neighboring farm with the dairy, so we had two mortgages. But, as I said, my wife and I were doing it, didn't have a lot of expenses. We managed to pay the mortgages. They're both paid off, and now we've got another one because we bought another house over here, but for one of my sons, but no matter. Yeah, that was a struggle, but we managed to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were pleased, every year the first thing we did was pay off that mortgage and then whatever. But the money was coming in. Yeah. And it just got better and better. It's possible. I think, as I said, I'd start tomorrow. I would probably have to get one Mexican to help me because I can't do all I used to do.
Not quite as...
No. Can't cover the same ground.
Yeah. Not quite the same amount of stamina as you used to have, yeah.
Oh, it's just a wonderful way to make a living. I wouldn't do anything else. Like I said, I'd do it again tomorrow. And to see things grow every year, it's wonderful, especially when you do a nice, neat job of it. You get pleasure just walking on the field and, oh, look at that. Look what's come up today. Isn't that nice, all weed-free? Yeah. So, oh, look at this mess. Yeah. Yeah, weeds are a major problem. We've got to figure out how to get on top of them. Some really planning.
I love that aspect of, I think Vermont in particular, it really wears its seasons well. The winter comes in and then the first flowers of spring, it's like, oh, hello, daffodils.
One of my favorite times of year just happens my birthday as well. It's the last week of April. Things are just booming.
Yeah. Grass is turning green.
Yeah. And I'm a Robert Frost fan. One of his poems that I like so well is, nature's first green is gold, the hardest hue to hold. That's when the leaves first come out, they're yellow. You think they're blossoming with the young leaves uncurling, and then, but boom, a week they're gone. And then they're all out. It's green. It's a beautiful, memorable time of year. Hope, look at this. Everything's booming. Better get up earlier, work later.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, that's why they leave you all behind if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's just the seasonality of it. It's just, yeah. Come November, when the leaves are all off the trees and you can see the ridges again in the trees, it's just a beautiful time of year. Just beautiful. Yeah. Hopefully you got everything all done, things are put to bed, tucked in. You can sort of sit back a little bit. And we used to make notes that time of year, on the calendar, whatever, kind of recap the whole thing.
Yeah. Reflect while it's still in your
while it's in your
brain.
mind. Exactly. It's very important. Yeah. 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 And just be happy that you're doing it, and that you've done a good job. And if you've messed up, then damn it, you shouldn't do it again next year. You do a better job next year because there's no excuse. It can all be managed. You just have to do it right.
Check and adjust and
exactly. Yeah.
make note of timings.
Yeah. And we always make some little mistakes, but our struggle for me, I just tell my son, he sort of manages the planning now where we plant things, that I got to find a piece of ground where I can plant green peas, sweet peas, because this one weed called Gallensoga has taken over the farm. And I cultivate until I can't cultivate anymore because the plants are beginning to fall over. And that weed will come in so fast, by the time you go to harvest, it's just a mess of weeds. I can't even pick them. So I got to have some clean ground for peas. Unfortunately, you can't plant peas through black plastic. At least I haven't figured out a way yet.
They have a hard time finding their way.
Yeah. I guess one seed at a time through a finger hole might work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but normally they're like in a row, right?
That's right. Yeah. I have thought that maybe we always plant this one variety. It's called sugar snap. It's just low growing because it's easy and you pick it once or twice and you're done with it.
Yeah.
I thought some about maybe trellising peas, but that's a lot more labor and you got to pick up the trellis afterwards. And as it is now, when we get done, we just take our flail mower in and everything's flail mowed down and the weeds and everything's tilled under back into soil for fertilizer and weed seeds, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was all of my questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or talk about today?
No, not really. I pretty much spread it all out there. How I feel about it. I love doing it. It's just a wonderful way to make a living, growing good food for people to eat. And they really appreciate it. We have a wonderful customer base, just wonderful, yeah. And they're happy and I'm happy. Just got it's management. At this point, it's really serious management because they say we have 3 families and we really got to pull it together.
Yeah.
And I think we're on the right track. My wife used to all the greenhouse stuff, but she's an invalid now. So she's out there in the greenhouse every day with her newly born baby and just getting sunlight in the crib and just loving it.
Hitting the ground running.
Yeah. Getting plenty of sunlight, so healthy sunlight. And she feeds him in the greenhouse and puts him back in his bed and rather back in her bed. And so, yeah, that's the way. That's the way to do it.
I can tell you really love farming in all aspects, but is there one particular activity that you're just like, this is the best day of the year?
No, I like it all. I like it all. Yeah. And try to do a good job so you avoid most of the frustrations. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's all about, as I said, detail. It's about attention to detail. If you miss a detail, it's going to jump up and bite you, especially when it comes to weeds.
And that was the Farmer's Share. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Bob Gray of Four Corners Farm. The Farmer's Share is supported by a grant offered by the USDA Specialty Crop Block Program from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets. This funding helps to cover some of my time and travel in order to produce this podcast until March of 2026. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service supports projects that address the needs of U.S. specialty crop growers and strengthens local and regional food systems. I have no doubt that this podcast will meet those needs and help educate growers to support the industry. If you enjoy this show and want to help support its programming, you can make a one-time or reoccurring donation on our website by visiting thefarmershare.com/support. This show is also supported by the Ag Engineering Program of the University of Vermont Extension. We also receive funding from the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association. The VVBGA is a nonprofit organization funded in 1976 to promote the economic, environmental, and social sustainability of vegetable and berry farming in Vermont. Their membership includes over 400 farms across Vermont and beyond, as well as about 50 businesses and organizations that provide products and services of all types to their members. Benefits to members include access to the VVBGA listserv to buy, sell plants and equipment, share farming information, and tap the vast experience of our growers. Access the community accreditation for produce safety, also known as CAPS. This program is designed for growers, by growers, to help you easily meet market and regulatory food safety expectations. You can access the VVBGA's soil health platform, where you can organize all the soil tests and create and store your soil amendment plans and records. Access to webinars for growers in the VVBGA annual meeting. An email subscription to the Vermont Vegetable and Berry newsletter. Camaraderie, enhanced communication, and fellowship among commercial growers. Memberships are on a per farm, per calendar year basis, and annual dues this year are $80. These funds pay for the organization's operating costs and support educational programs and research projects. These funds also support projects that address grower needs around ag engineering, high tunnel production, pest management, pollinators, produce safety, and soil health. Become a member today to be a part of and further support the veg and berry industry. You can visit thefarmershare.com to listen to previous interviews or see photos, videos, or links discussed from the conversation. If you don't want to miss the next episode, enter your email address on our website and you'll get a note in your inbox when the next one comes out. The Farmer's Share has a YouTube channel with videos from several of the farm visits. We're also on Instagram, and that's where you can be reminded about the latest episode or see photos from the visit. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could write a review. In Apple Podcasts, just click on the show, scroll down to the bottom, and there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with other grower friends or crew who you think would be inspiring for them. Thanks for listening.